But the next topic of discussion is the where, what, and who. Now, during this track, we'll be discussing development plans, lucrative areas, infrastructure, data of transaction, schemes that the developers give, subvention, kind of amenities provided, and alternative class. So everything that you need to know about real estate will be discussed in this chapter. And we have some very, very amazing people that are going to be the panelists. So give a huge round of applause, starting with retired IAS, founder chairperson of NAREDCO, Shri Gautam Chatterjee. Joining sir on stage is the president of NAREDCO India, Mr. Rajan Bandelkar. Next on the panel is architect Reza Kabul from Reza Kabul Architects. Good afternoon. Next is the Managing Director and CEO of Tata Realty and Infrastructure Limited, Mr. Sanjay Dutt. Next is the co-founder of Stallion Buildtech, architect Milind Changani. Okay, he couldn't be here, but thank you very much. And the moderator for this session is Mr. Vishal Bhargav, the columnist from Money Control. Thank you. Can we have mics on the tables, please? So, gentlemen, thank you very much. Everybody's excited about this panel discussion because it has everything to do with real estate, and we've been waiting to hear from you. So I hand it over to our moderator, Mr. Bhargav.
So today is a very opportune day to discuss the topic we are doing. We've had 5 years of RERA. We've seen a lot of change happen after that. So it's a good time to review the changes, as well as So today is a very opportune day to discuss the subject that we are discussing. It'll be focused on sales and marketing. It's opportune because we've now had 5 years of RERA to see how the change possibly has happened in the industry. And also for the next 2 years, because one of the trends that's clearly played out is that many developers have re-entered the market owing to the buoyancy that's happened in the last 18 months. The panel, of course, is very rightly diverse and distinguished. So I'll start the first question with Mr. Chatterjee. He's probably played the most disruptive role in real estate in the last decade. Positively, of course. Mr. Chatterjee, many good things have happened, undoubtedly. What's the one thing you wish had happened but has not yet happened?
Good afternoon. There's no background music, so there is every chance of you falling off, dozing off to sleep. But then it's good that before you doze off, I'll make my point. Yes, RERA, we have just completed 5 years of RERA, and a lot of changes did take place. What was there pre-RERA and what is now, I think has been a paradigm shift in this sector. And the most talked about malaise of the sector, which used to be there pre-RERA, of lack of transparency, lack of trust or trust deficit, and no time stipulation for completion of project. All those 3 T's have been actually ticked off post-RERA, especially, I think, in Maharashtra. So, lot of transparency is today there, which has brought down, to a large extent, the information asymmetry which was there in the sector. Today, a buyer is actually having all the information about a sector and is able to take an informed decision. And therefore, the balance has shifted from a seller's market to a buyer's market. Let's all realize that. Okay, so all information is available to the buyer. That also has led to the time stipulation that has been put by RERA. To a large extent, especially new projects, is being adhered to. The time that you put out to say that I'll complete a project in this much time, to a large extent is being followed, though the pains of the legacy projects, where there were problems in those old projects, which have still not been resolved. So to a large extent, the legacy projects pain still continues. And that is actually slowing down the process of the trust building that was actually supposed to happen. So the trust deficit should have actually been wiped out to a large extent had we been able to tick these 2 T's of transparency, total transparency, removal of information asymmetry, and timely stipulation being adhered to and projects getting completed in time. But then again, Maharera took that extra step to say that when you have a problem, resolution of a problem need not be through the quasi-judicial route. There is a conciliation that can resolve the problem. So you make the 2, should I say, warring sides or people having problems with each other, sit and talk to each other and resolve it. To start with, the 4 out of 5 cases were getting resolved in that manner. Rajan was one of the conciliators. A lot of people who are sitting here also have been conciliators, which was a great effort in trust building. So these things have happened. We'll have to sustain the efforts to see that these 3 T's we keep on following. Now coming to the question that he raised, as what is one more thing that you would require, especially talking about sales and marketing, I would feel, especially when I'm talking to Gen X, and we have all the young entrepreneurs sitting here, I would feel that this sector has been known to be very slow when it comes to adapting appropriate technology. So in technological terms, which in fact is being taken up by all other sectors in a great deal, we will, I think, the players here, the stakeholders here, will also have to take those things very seriously. When you're talking to a consumer, the various omni-channel communication methods, or maybe when you are using various inputs that you have when you are on the drawing board to work out the project details, how are you using analytics, and all those things will have to be also factored in when you're doing this. I'm just narrating an incident which happened when I was maybe 1 year into chairmanship of RERA. A medium level developer, not very maybe well known to have been performing very well, and therefore aankh moond ke people will go and buy his product, came and shared his experience with me that he launched a project, and on the day of the launch he had huge amount of number of people coming in, and they actually at the end of the day he did manage to get their bookings. But then what he shared with me was that when they came, they were all discerning consumers, having all the information about the project which was already there in the public domain through the RERA website. So they were not interested in him repeating again that these are the blah, 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 these are the things. They wanted something more. Okay, so that something more is what would also be required when you do sales and marketing henceforth. I would feel that.
Sanjay, just the point Mr. Chatterjee mentioned regarding sales and marketing and developers' trust. Trust often comes through brands. You represent a pretty heavyweight brand in terms of at the global level, especially even at real estate to an extent. Do you think it is easy to create a new brand in real estate today?
If you were to go back last 30 years, you will realize that 70% of the developers did not exist 30 years ago. So we have seen many young who have actually grown, beside the obvious few where you have the third generation. DLF is third generation, Reheja, the third generation is coming, Shapaji Palanji, third generation. We don't have generations in Tatas, but we are also 40-plus-year-old. But majority are young. And it is possible to build a brand. You just have to keep in mind what is required to sustain a development company. And the most important thing is the core values that you educate your, family, for example. Now, I have come across, I've done my consulting experience since '92, and I've seen some developers who have grown, but the next generation perhaps is not as savvy as the first generation was, because in the environment, the way you have to manage is not easy. And whatever recession and setbacks to the sector that they're seeing today, it's very difficult for them to fathom. So the only way to build a sustainable brand is to bring discipline, value system. The recent focus of the government on compliance, statutory compliance and regulation was somewhat lacking, and is even today it's lacking. If I was to ask, amongst the developers in this room, I bet, with the exception of few, majority would not have a technology tool to track as a principal employer when you appoint a contractor. Are you tracking provident fund of a contractor, construction worker on the site because you are a principal employer? I can tell you that it's not there in the system. It's only when you put system and processes in place through use of technology, which Tata is doing abundantly, and I'm happy to kind of share at a next gen level what we have done, because we follow a system where the promoter is not required. It's a very Western style management. You have system, processes, clearly laid out policies, delegation of power, authority, everything is defined. Now, can a promoter or an entrepreneur sitting here delegate that you decide what construction contract you want to award to your procurement head, or what steel, or what negotiation? For that, you need to build a system and process in the organization, and it doesn't mean that you blindly basically empower them and then they lose out the competitive edge which an entrepreneur brings. I'm not saying that. If you incorporate these things, even the smallest developer with small business can compete with Tatas and Godrej easily. I don't think corporate nature defines that we are corporate developers. I think a developer who sets system and processes of a corporate culture is a corporate developer, in my opinion.
Fair enough. Mr. Bandelkar, is there a difference in which legacy real estate companies think of sales and marketing versus what new age companies think about branding and marketing in their business? Is there a difference in mindset?
Yes, but before answering your question, I want to clarify one thing to Gautam Chatterjee sir. सर बोले कि यहाँ पे लोग सो जाए उसके पहले, सर जो सोया हुआ आपके नाम सुनता है तो नींद में भी जाग जाता है. नहीं, see, there's a vast difference, because first one was there कि earlier it was builders. They were not developers. They were called as builders and contractors, to be very honest. We used to do only one building, 2 buildings, और 2 के ऊपर अगर किसी ने बिल्डिंग बना लिया तो भाई वो तो बहुत ही बड़ा आदमी होगा, वैसी हालत है. एंड बिकॉज इफ यू सी 30 years back, as Sanjay was telling, probably there was no Hiranandani, or even though even Rajas were there, they were also pretty small, to be very honest. It has changed. Because earlier, more than builders, they were contractors. Because in those days, it was very easy. People used to assemble together and they used to get a plot allotted from the government or wherever, and they used to give it as contract. Or say SBI people, they used to find a group. So there was total different thing. And I don't mind telling here also, and not to take me other way around. See, the cash component was too much that time. Second, the market was ruled by investors. So customer दूर दूर तक कहीं संबंधी नहीं था उसका. By which we knowingly, unknowingly, likingly, not likingly, whichever way you say, we took him for a ride, jolly good ride. That's why where I tell person like Gautam Chatterjee came in picture. And to be very honest, Noida was one of the worst thing could have happened to real estate industry. Wherein which I am telling, and thanks Sanjay. Sanjay has already told me yesterday. Yesterday we had a GC meeting. As NAREDCO, we would like to take that Noida issue, and we would like to sort out that issue, which will give a real credibility to entire industry, real estate industry. I know, but one thing I know for sure, every problem has a solution. Only how you look at it. Because I remember, and one more thing I would like to remind you, today is 1st July, 5 years for GST also. So if you see 2017, मतलब ये तो शायद सब बच्चे होंगे, लेकिन 2017 में हमको वो अंधेरा ही दिखता था, ऐसी हालत थी, सामने कुछ दिखता ही नहीं था. इवन तो येलो लाइट्स लगाएंगे तो भी कुछ नहीं लगता था, फॉगी लगता था सब कुछ. Because there was demonetization. Everybody knows what was the position of demonetization. And then came RERA, then came GST, and then came NBFC crisis. So उस वक्त जो जी गया ना, या so उस वक्त जो जी गया ना वो आज भी है.
But just to get back to the point of, do legacy brands look at branding very differently from new age? And if so, are they willing to rethink the way they have?
That's what I was coming to that. See, people who haven't changed, because change is the only permanent thing. The people who haven't changed, they have become history. So you have to do that. And I'm very happy about NextGen, because earlier also our chairman also told we have already taken so many sessions on approvals, online approval, single window clearance, government problem, technology. But this is the first time they have taken on sales and marketing. So 100%, and in this area, today's area is digital. Because पहले जैसे कहा जाते थे कि हम लोग अगर न्यूज़पेपर में ऐड दिया ना तो हमको लगता है कि न्यूज़पेपर में ऐड दिया तो हो गया, या फिर those days the quantum was also very less. Now it has, even though we didn't got industry status, because we have almost become an industry.
Reza, brands are built on products. Products play a key role in every industry, but in real estate probably even more. At the product level, have you noticed a big distinction in the mindset of a developer as to how he should be planning his new product in this post-COVID era?
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Firstly, I would like to bring another point which is nothing to do with this, but it's got to do with RERA. I was a victim myself, and I would like to thank RERA and Mr. Rajan. They helped me out, and I got the verdict, and I have got partial money. I'm on the way to get the balance money still. But initially, we all were scared of RERA. I think I'm a person who experienced it, and I'm thankful I got my money, and that's thanks to you, sir. That's one of the things I wanted to just bring it out. So the other thing what you were talking about is the brands thinking about post-COVID, what should be the design intent or what should be the thought behind the design. Yes, there are developers who do think futuristic. They want to change, as Mr. Rajan said. They want to change. They're looking at newer things. So when we suggest something to them, they adapt to it, and they're looking at it. There are some which do not. So there are all types of people in this world. So what we started looking at after post-COVID is, one is the balcony came back into the houses. Now, each and every developer, each and every buyer is insisting that they want a balcony because the 8 months, 7 months that they stayed at home, it was a big challenge, you know. So they didn't have any space to go outside, no breather space. So balconies have come back, and balconies have come back in a big way. And most of the developers are insisting, and the buyers are insisting as well. The other change that what we saw during the COVID period, we had a lot of these Zoom calls, we had a lot of these webinars, and the biggest challenge was, you know, when you want to do a webinar, the kids are playing, they're making noise. The person who's speaking was getting disturbed, and the whole, the webinar was being disrupted. So it was a big challenge. So we started looking at bringing an office home into the house. So where you have a small room, so the kids don't get disturbed when you're on a conference or a webinar or a Zoom call or whatever it is. So we started introducing that. And or if the apartment is too small, we started insisting that the developer gets it, maybe in the clubhouse or some area which is a common area. We started giving them smaller cubicles where they could just go down to the house, from the house, and they could conduct, these kind of meetings. So I think COVID has taught us some things, that was one of the things.
Sanjay, you want to add something on this?
Very quickly, just to complement what you've already said, we were designing homes for individuals and families. Now I believe we're designing communities. So it's no longer just the individuals and the families, it's communities. What does the community want? What are their interests? What is their common interest? So that's one thing. Second is, I think the wellness has come into the real estate play. So it's not just real estate, it's wellness. It's your emotional well-being, it's your physical, it's sense of security that you get by owning a home, and that's why the bounce in the market that has come. And the third element, which is very likely to get added very soon, and that's because the millennials and the younger generation and the commitments that the government is making by signing global treaties, is the sustainability. So very soon, the penetration of green energy, whether it's automobile, whether it is using green energy at home, or appliances, etc., that will come in a big way. And I think all of this, complemented by technology, will disrupt the way we positioning the product. And I've gone on record by saying, in exactly 5 years' time, Tata Housing will be a services company in a real estate development business. We are no longer looking at a physical aspect of a development. We are thinking, what are the needs of the consumer and how do we have to service those needs? Literally, like a hospitality company, you have to service the customer at home, So those are the thought process.
Mr. Chatterjee, we've discussed the initial part of RERA, its fallout, its impact positively. One of the traits of real estate is that the market has become very dynamic. Trends change, and they change fast. Just to keep in pace with the change, developers also have to then relook their plans. How do you think RERA should view that side of the business?
I feel the consumer centricity has to be there right from the day you get a consumer to come and who has made a booking with you. You should not run away from the fact that they will have to be brought together into maybe a cooperative society or an apartment ownership act or whatever. And let me postpone that till I can do that. I have been insisting from the day they come in, they are not buyers, but they are partial owners of that property. So they are equity holders into your system. And therefore, every decision making and every information should be also be shared with him. Now, once you start doing that, then in that case, even if suppose there is a need because of changes in the development plan or any other thing, and you will have to bring in certain changes in the layout or any other thing, though there is a provision in the act which says that if it is affecting an individual, you must get his prior consent. If it is affecting the community there in the project, then you should get 2/3 consent and all those things. I think you will be very able to get that very easily. If from the beginning you have held his hand and you have actually brought him into various decision-making processes that are happening and how the process is taking place. Let's not forget that this is the only sector where an unfinished product is something on which a person is putting his life savings. He doesn't know when I'll get that finished product. This is the only sector. All other sectors, even if suppose you buy a car, you get the car, go and drive it, and then you can pay it much later. Here is only the sector where you will start paying from day one, and the product will come much later. If that is the case, then let us be little more transparent than whatever mandatory disclosure is required under RERA. Try and bring him into the system, into all the decision-making processes that are going in. In that case, whenever changes would be required, and that is not because you are making the changes because you want to make money, maybe also in the process you will make money as a developer, but then you are required to do it because there are changes in the environment. The ecosystem requires those changes to be brought in because the new development plan has come in 2034 or something else. I think it will be much easier to get the consent of the people. So let's change the approach. If you change the approach, I think it will be much easier.
Sanjay, Mr. Chatterjee. Yeah.
Vishal, one thing. What happened? Sir has told, but practically it is not possible because now once before you register under RERA, you can't sell. And the moment you sell, you have to start construction because real estate is a peculiar thing. Once you put your footings and everything, then it's like a die. What I mean to say. So you have to construct the same way. So the chances of whatever sir has told, it is there in this thing. But in practicality, it is very, very difficult. Because once you are done, so whatever you are put into process, that has to come.
But realizing that, Rajan, therefore Maharashtra RERA was the only RERA which allowed you to break your project to phases so that at least you know that if there are subsequent phases which would require changes, you can actually bring in as a separate registration there and you will not have to go through this rigmarole of getting all on board to say, yes, I approve of this change. So that certainly I think
Sir deserves a round of applause for that because let me confess and tell you, sir was the only person because I know sir may not like it, but still I would like to mention it because I had taken sir's wrath so many times, so one more time today. Because when RERA came, we had main two problems. One was dividing this into phases, which there was no solution. Sir brought this solution. Sir told, we went with this problem. Telling that sir हम कुछ नहीं कर पाते क्योंकि हमको अप्रूवल एट ए टाइम देते नहीं है और दूसरा अगर आप दोगे तो भी हमारे जेब में पैसे नहीं है और दैट टाइम वाज वेरी बैड बोला ओके यू कम विद द प्रॉब्लम आई विल गिव यू अ सॉल्यूशन व्हेनेवर वी वेंट टू सर विद अ प्रॉब्लम सर इज ऑलवेज देयर विद अ सॉल्यूशन इवन दिस कंसिलिएशन आल्सो क्रेडिट गोज टू सर ओनली बिकॉज सर कॉल्ड बोथ ऑफ अस ग्राहक पंचायत एंड अस एंड टोल्ड व्हाई कांट यू डू दिस People didn't understood what was conciliation, but I was smart enough because I was in sir's company for almost more than a decade. तो मुझे पता है कि सर जो भी करते हैं उसमें भला अपना ही होता है तो सर जो बोले वो तुरंत मान लो तो conciliation because sir Tara ma'am is also a conciliator. There are many conciliators who are sitting here and they know and today see the desired respect whatever we are today getting that conciliation also one of the pillar in that. Sorry.
Sanjay, Mr. Chatterjee mentioned about trust growing because of multiple engagements between the customer and developer. As someone who looks at the market from a bird eye's view as well, how do you think small and mid-level developers should plan their marketing and branding strategy, given that they don't have the hefty budgets that, say, giants like you or, of course, Ronak, those type will have? How should they plan it?
No, I genuinely believe that it has been proven that your discipline and successful track record is perhaps your best marketing tool. And that's the foundation. Now it's all about reaching out to your audience or relevant buyer profile, which you want to, reach out to. Now, there was a time when we had investors, speculators, and the end user buyer. So it was slightly complicated and required a multi-dimensional approach. I think majority would agree, with the exception of markets in NCR, where the speculators and investors are back already. I think in most markets, we still have end users mostly. So I think that's where, you can't afford to commit to a project, because right at the stage of designing, you discuss the typologies, you discuss the square footage. We made Mumbai very affordable over the last 5 years by reducing carpet areas of the apartments. And I think the architects here would agree, ticket sites ka kaam hai, to living room kam kar do, passages uda do, balcony to वैसे ही balcony से बाहर हो गई थी. So all those things we very intelligently did. So that demonstrated that they understand market. Okay, what is their affordability factor? If you crack that first, then it's all about reaching the audience, which we have learned the hard way. The print is history, and digital and artificial intelligence is what is complementing and fueling our sales right now, with a little bit of smart strategy with channel partners. So I think you have to agree that we are extremely dependent on channel partners. So it is important for development companies to look at channel partners as clients. I know it sounds weird. If you do not think from the interest of a channel partner, from the interest of a vendor contractor, from the interest of a client, eventually, sir was talking about customer centricity. In Tata Housing, we have replaced customer centricity with the word called customer obsession. It is customer obsession that you have to be able to deliver. So once you find language to communicate to the customer that we are really obsessed with the interest of making sure that we meet or exceed your expectation, then the channels that you use to reach and communicate is an easier subject to worry about. But I think it's a fundamental intent which you demonstrate and build a brand with discipline. Using all those channels and virtual tours and communication tools, etc., is an easier one. And I think the new generation has already picked up on it.
Reza, since Sanjay mentioned the part of smaller homes, compact homes, do you think the next disruption will happen not in the compact home side, but in the furniture that comes inside the place? Will there be a disruption in the size and the dimensions of the furniture that make that livability much more for a customer?
So, as architect, I mean, I'm talking about myself. Whenever I do a building or whenever I do a project, we always keep the end user in mind, because they are the ones who's going to be actually eventually using it. And when you do a lot of compact homes, I mean, as a buyer, they do not understand the sizes on a piece of paper. What happens is, after you get the delivery, I mean, you've seen, we were just discussing about some projects which I told you, they flopped so badly, they were just looking at ticket sizes. And they flopped so badly because they had 7 feet living rooms. The kitchen and the living room was so, compact, it was combined together. And it's not workable. You need an 8x4 minimum toilet. You need an 8x4 bath. You need a minimum 10 by 10 as a bedroom if you're doing a very compact home itself. You can't go beyond that. If you go below that, what's going to happen? When the person comes in, and most of these buildings that were done, they were all done with Maivan shuttering. They were all non-salvageable walls. They couldn't be broken down. And you see the fate of those projects today. So you cannot be, giving somebody, you can give them, maximum you can give them a size. Beyond that, when you start squeezing the size, what's going to happen? You try to fit something, you want a full 2-bedroom house in a small packet. You start squeezing the packet further down. You can put in 200 ml or 100 ml in this bottle. You cannot put in 500 ml in this bottle. If you want to do that, the bottle is going to burst. And that's what happened. You see, most of those projects have been shelved or they've been, shut.
Sanjay,
Yeah.
your thought?
I have a very interesting angle. I think you can't make affordable homes. I think you can only make affordable homes affordable by increasing the incomes of the people.
So I'm just coming to that. So what happens is everybody wants to make those kind of homes, but then it's not workable. You have to make, it's eventually your life's earnings. When you go, you want to go to your home and you want to relax. You just don't want to, go into another, this thing. So you're moving the people from the chawl into another chawl. I don't think we want to do that. We want to lift the upbringing of the people, the socio-economic conditions you want to lift of a person. You can't be just putting them into a smaller home again.
Just to take Sanjay's point forward, COVID has caused tremendous disruption in our lives. But last 2 years of COVID has done one thing, that people couldn't spend money. So the money that they have today, they are either spending on tourism, hospitality, or they are saying that I need to actually buy a home, which will be, the affordability has gone up that way, that income or the money is put in mutual fund and others have yielded some sort of money. And today, it's not only that actual user who wants to go and stay in that home, but also the little bit of surplus that I have, people are realizing that real estate is the real place where I should put in the money. Number two, maybe 3 years back, people were in the wait and watch mode to say that no, the incomes, the interest rates are coming down, stamp duty will come down, RERA has come, therefore prices are going to fall, so let me wait for that opportune moment when I'll make the buy decision. Today it is different altogether. Today everyone realizes prices will go up, and therefore if I must go ahead and I have the money, let me go ahead and do the booking. So be prepared, people will be coming to you now.
So, the cost of construction is not coming down. The cement cost is there, your premiums are there, your land cost is there. That's not coming down. So where do you reduce the price of the house? So it's not practical. So you have to start thinking big.
And just a final question to all of you all. Mr. Bandelkar, first question to you in this. We have spoken about specific projects. Is there a way now we have to start thinking of marketing Mumbai rather than just individual projects? The industry, like how we saw a decade, 2 decades before, where you weren't selling only a project, you were selling locations. Do you think we'll get back to that phase again? And if we do we have enough lined up on the ground to say that with confidence?
Very good question. I will tell you, we should learn from Narendra Modi ji. He has sold India. So what you are talking, just selling a location. When our Prime Minister can sell the entire country, what I mean to say, market it. Yeah, I see. That's what RERA does. कि हम लोग कुछ भी गलत बोले ना तो तुरंत पकड़ लेते. What I meant, the people understood, but still I want to clarify. He has marketed India in such a way that automatically it has given the benefits to all of us. The same way, we have done. I don't mind being on NAREDCO platform and talking about MCHA also. In Thane, a way back, almost 20 years back, we have sold Thane. And if you remember, even Mulund also. Mulund was known as Prince of Suburbs. So that is already there. I think the next gen should pick it up. For that, what you need is the unity amongst the developers. So they should come, and if they put even 10% of their marketing, what will happen कि it may not come. It's like rain. बारिश होती है तो वो बांद्रा में ही गिरती है, ऐसे नहीं है, तो वो कहीं पे भी गिरती है. तो तुम्हारे को कस्टमर आ जावे तो पानी मिल जाने वाला है. तो कस्टमर अगर आ गए पूरे में बम्बई में, तो किसी के पास, इधर संजय के पास जाएगा, मेरे पास जाएगा या और किसी के पास जाएगा. तो यू डोंट फील दैट. ऑटोमेटिकली उतने मार्केट में सेल हो गए तो ऑटोमेटिकली द एडवांटेज इज देयर.
Do you think it can be done, Mr. Chatterjee?
I think that cities develop as per a perspective plan which the planning authorities and the government make, the master plan or development plan. I think as bodies, developers bodies, you should be very much onto that when the plans. We are fortunate that the Mumbai DP34 or the plans in Maharashtra more or less takes into account the views of the others and has this forward-looking outlook there. That would be necessary because we have also here developers from across the country. We need to have a proper plan in place. And the other thing which has been the major problem with all these plans, Mumbai has seen that the last two development plans of 64 and 91 gets implemented to the extent of 7 to 10% only. So how do you ensure that if you have a good plan in place, how does it get executed in the next 20 years? So if that is brought in and advocacy methods are used by various stakeholders to see that they fall into place, then I think automatically you sell the city.
Sanjay, final question on this. Most home buyers, they've been sold an infrastructure dream. Close to you, airport coming, metro coming. Now, many things aren't in the hands of developers. They're in the hands of government agencies. How can developers crack this part of the puzzle which is out of their hand?
It's a tough one for me to answer. First of all, it's a very unique example that I'm giving. It's very funny. You know, the cities which have worst infrastructure have the highest value of property. I'm not joking. And the reason for that is because the infrastructure is so poor that the buyer is willing to pay a premium to be closer to where they want to be, right? And Mumbai is a very good example of that. Vis-a-vis Hyderabad, where they build an excellent infrastructure. And you can go from Gachibowli to Shamshabad in like 10-15 minutes and buy a home there for 5,000 rupees per square feet. Why pay 12,000 in high-tech city? So that's one. So this is very funny that this industry is profiting from lack of infrastructure, right? Now, to coming to your question, I think most of the time when we do projects, we don't pay attention to some very basic fundamental things. Those fundamental things are water, sewage, all environment-related issues, access and transport. We think because the customer has no choice, whatever we will build will get sold, and they'll figure out a way how to do it. And as it is in this country, the infrastructure is only doing catch-up. So it's not, and the other extreme example, I must say, in the interest of Maharashtra government, they also had the vision and the foresight to decongest Mumbai, island city, and do CITCO, Navi development, well planned, thought out, very well executed. I think all the infrastructure there came ahead. But they did not provide social infrastructure. They did not provide schools and colleges. They did not focus on livability factor. And as a result of that, the Navi Mumbai failed. And the city continued to remain congested. So it's very unfortunate. I just want to quickly add, I know you're running out of time. In the earlier question, I think it's very important for all of you to understand who are the demand drivers of a city. So Mumbai was known for banking and financial services, consulting, audit, pharmaceutical, and few other sectors. And they've been severe setbacks to those sectors. And the other thing is perception. Mumbai is perceived as the most expensive city, but that's only applicable to South Mumbai real estate prices. The rest all is cheap. So I just wanted this generation to kind of pay a little bit of attention to demand drivers and the real intrinsic value of the city.
Thank you, everyone. On that optimistic and encouraging note, we'll end the session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
नहीं अभी नहीं अभी we would like to thank the panelists. Thank you very much for your time, and sir, you were outstanding. We would request Mr. Jay Morzaria to join us on stage and present a token of appreciation to Shri Gautam Chatterjee. Can we request Mr. Vishal Thakkar, if you could do the honors. Requesting Grishma Savla. Grishma, if you're here, we would request you to please join us on stage and present a token of appreciation to Rajan sir. Okay, so we'll ask Grishma to present the token of appreciation to architect Reza Kabul. Thank you very much, sir, for attending the NAREDCO NextGen. Requesting Pratik Kataria to join us and present a token of appreciation to Mr. Sanjay Dutt. Can we request Rishabh Siroya to join us on stage and present Mr. Vishal Bhargav with a token of appreciation. And we would request Jay, sir, if you could please join us on stage and present a token of appreciation to Rajan, sir. Double. All right, not a problem. So asking everybody here, did you find that panel discussion intriguing and exciting? Yes. Wonderful. Thank you to all the panelists.